Going beyond the headlines. Asking the questions you want answered. Exploring government policies and how they impact you. We are delving deeper.
Good evening and welcome to Delving Deeper. I am Ria Rupchansing, your host, sitting in for Kimberly D'Souza this evening. Today, we're going to be doing things a bit differently in that we've got on set the Member of Parliament for Toco, Sangre, Grande, Mr. Roger Monroe. Good evening, Mr. Monroe. Welcome to the show.
Good evening, Ria. Thank you for having me. And I must say, good evening to Trinidad and Tobago, and good evening to my beautiful constituents in the constituency of Toco Sangre Grande.
We also have the Member of Parliament from Port of Spain South, Mr. Keith Scotland. Good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Ms. Chansing. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be able to speak to the constituents of Port of Spain South and also Trinidad and Tobago.
And the Member of Parliament for Point Fortin, Mr. Kennedy Richards. Good evening and welcome to you.
Good evening, Ria, and good evening to the people of Point Fortin and Trinidad and Tobago.
Well, it's a pleasure having all three of you with me on set today. You all come from various constituencies across the country. And basically, though, the problems seem to be the same. There are problems maybe with infrastructure, with water supplies, various things like that. So let's start with you again, Mr. Richards, Deep South. Can you give us an update on what's happening with respect to issues such as infrastructure, roads, the water supply in the Point Fortin area?
Well, let me start with the water, right? because the water supply tends to affect the roads in some type of way, especially in the Southland. We have some affected areas with respect to the water. And those areas are New Village, Southern Gardens, East Street, Fanny Village. Then I take it a little bit further south. We have the Chatham area, we have Ikakas, we have Granville, Bonus, some of those areas that have been affected by the water supply. And this has come to bear fruit because we have three plants. We have a desalination plant in Point Fortin proper. We also have a plant in Chatham and we have a plant in Granville. The plant in Chatham and Granville over the last couple of years have been hit by some wells that are caved in and some wells that has some extra iron content. So WASA is now charged with the responsibility of supplying even more residents because the entire constituency is growing. But they have a reduction in the amount of supply that they could get. And how are we going to treat with this? So presently what they would have done is that areas that have been receiving 24-hour supply, like Granville area, they now put them on a schedule. And they now have to meter the water into the other areas via different pumping systems. So while we understand that is not a final solution, this is what they can do until what the Minister of Public Utilities said that they're going to put a modular plant in. They're going to put a modular plant in Bonus Village, and that will assist in terms of alleviating the water issues in that area. With respect to coming closer to Point Fortin proper now, with respect to Fanny Village and Captiville and East Street and New Village, that area is fed by the desalination plant. But that desalination plant pushes a lot of pressure out, and because of that pressure and the old lines that exist, we have some challenges with respect to the roads. Yeah. Because they say pressure burst pipe. So we have a lot of leaking pipes all over Point Fortin. But we have put a plan in place to treat with some of that. And what you would see coming out of the budget is that we would be treating with the replacing of some of the older lines, which would assist in terms of getting higher pressure so that those who are on the hilltops, I should say, would be able to receive a better and a more regular supply of water. So allow me to take you away from some of the other challenges that we have with respect to the road and the water. Some other infrastructural projects that we have been undertaking is things like the fire station. So the fire station, which was set to be completed by the end of this year, has taken a tad bit delayed due to the COVID pandemic and when they stopped. So we have that. We also have Mahaika Oval, which we opened yesterday, and that is going to create a great tourism plan sporting tourism plan for the people at Point Fortin and assist us in terms of taking our athletes to the next level. As you know, during Richards, Marshall Cedenio, Kashif King, all three who got gold medals are from Point Fortin. You know, we have a proud and a rich history in sport and culture, and that is going to assist us in creating and maintaining that rich history. The Point Fortin General Hospital, and it has been providing service since the people of Point Fortin, because when you live in the Carcass, to leave the Carcass to go to San Fernando, it's quite a long drive, and anything can happen in between that time. And I know you would know Point Fortin and the constituency, and when the hospital opened, I actually likened the building to the Hyatt. You know, it's indeed a beautiful building, but one thing that I'm definitely listening and keeping on top of is the inclusion of services. So what they are doing in the Southwest Regional Health Authority is that they are building those services up until its maximum, because Point Fortin Hospital even has the capability of a burn unit. And it's something that the Minister of Health is indeed proud about, and we are working with the Southwest Regional Health Authority to continue to build up all the services that is required. So it's definitely a great building and good service, and they are there to serve the people at Point Fortin and environs, not just Point Fortin.
And I think that's going to come in really handy too, because Point Fortin is home to a number of oil and gas companies as well. So a hospital such as that with a burn unit, that's really going to help Point Fortin in a big way, instead of having to take them, as you said, to San Fernando.
Yes, definitely.
So, yes. And as we're talking about these projects, Mr. Monroe, how do these projects fit in with what's happening in the East?
Well, Toco Sangre Grande is currently a developing constituency. We have been seeing a lot of improvements and development over the years. However, I would like to break it down in 3 stages. I am not one to shy away from the fact that we have challenges, and I could admit so because I live within that constituency and I feel the pain of my people, because I do sometimes face the challenges and go through the challenges. For instance, no water, bad roads, different challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis. We have been seeing some major development, and that development, we would see at the end of those developments, Toco Sangre Grande being a hub to the whole northeastern region and all the other surrounding constituencies. So most times persons below the Sangre Grande area from Valencia downwards may head to the opposite direction to do business. But what I foresee in the near future, is that a lot of persons will change their direction and come to the Sangre Grande, Toco Sangre Grande area, because we would not only be offering the services, but we'll be also offering, and I must put on record this evening here, that I think we are the most beautiful constituency in the entirety of Trinidad and Tobago. That's just my humble opinion. But we have developments such as the brand new Sangre Grande Hospital that we would see in 2023, 106 bed that would benefit some 110,000 persons. And I must boast of the amount of praises we do get at the Sangre Grande Eastern Regional Health Authority for their healthcare services given to all citizens. A lot of persons from outside our area, our constituency, do come to the Sangre Grande Hospital and get healthcare services. We would have recently have our enhanced facility, Sangre Grande enhanced facility, which is doing tremendous work for the people. That would have been one of the centers that pulled us out during the COVID period. We would have benefited from our Sangre Grande licensing office. Now our people from Toco and Matla does not have to leave 3 o'clock in the morning to head to Arima or Port of Spain. We have our own licensing office, and I must say thanks to the Minister of Works and Transport and the Ministry of Works for seeing it fit to give us that licensing office in Sangre Grande. And then we could go on to the Toco to Valencia road upgrade and highway, which will eventually lead us to the port that is in the future plans for the Toco area, which is a big one for the people of the Toco region. You know, that port is going to enhance the lives and livelihood of all the people on the northeastern side. Also, I could speak about the Churchill Roosevelt highway extension from Komoto into Sangre Grande. One of the challenges we face either coming into Sangre Grande or leaving at times is the major challenge of traffic congestion from the Valencia area into Sangre Grande. And I myself patiently take my time and drive myself, because I drive myself into Sangre Grande during that time. But what I did as a temporary solution while we await the completion of that highway extension is I would have made representation to the Ministry of Works and Transport Division, had my meetings with the Director of Traffic Management and the traffic wardens, and I must say they are doing us a tremendous amount of justice in assisting us by pulling that traffic both on a morning and an evening in the especially that person's experience in the Damry Hill area. So there are a lot of challenges, I must say. There are also developments and there are solutions. And I must put on the record that Toco Sangre Grande would not be left behind in terms of what the other parts of this country is benefiting from. I came in as a member of parliament in 2020, and I did not waste any time in engaging the various ministers and ministries to seek them out, to bring them and invite them to Toco Sangre Grande. I invite every single person to Toco Sangre Grande because I believe they could bring some benefit to us. And I must put on the record, the Minister of Youth and National Services, the Honorable Foster Cummins, would have done a visit with me in the Touré area. We already allocated a site for a non-residential youth facility, and I believe that is going to bring a lot of assistance and a relief and opportunities for our young people in that northeastern region. Also, the Minister of Sports and Community Development, and I say this young lady is, and I use the word young lady fondly, this young lady is a worker. I would have reached out to her because I would have inherited a indoor facility at the Upper Ojo Road area in Sangre Grande. I was just there and no works was being done, and I reached out to her and I expressed the views, not my views, the views of the people that has been coming to me. And I must say that work has begun and they are on the further end of completion, and the people of Toco Sangre Grande would get their indoor facility to make the best use of it for all of us. So the sporting community in Toco Sangre Grande is going to get that indoor facility. And then there's many other projects that would be happening within the other parts of the communities on the smaller level. I must acknowledge the work of the unemployment relief program through their construction projects, those smaller projects that seem so insignificant, but it is beneficial to a community, the little drain, the little crossing for someone to go into their yard and those things. And all that development is taking place. And I must say, I'm very grateful.
Yeah, on the go. But Mr. Monroe, something I have to tell you, for some reason, Sangre Grande has always fascinated me. I don't know why. Passing through to get to my Yarrow as a child and even as an adult now, something about the town of Sangre Grande always fascinated me and still does. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
As we turn now to Mr. Keith Scotland and the Port of Spain South area. Now, occasionally or from time to time, you find problems that constituents may have with the area. Can you tell us some of those problems that they may encounter and what you're doing to basically help them through that?
The first problem and we are addressing it now, really is the creation of jobs and job opportunities for the people of Port of Spain South. They want to work. People of Port of Spain South are very industrious persons and very proud persons. And we are in the process of creating jobs, and we start on the micro level with the URP, with sometimes we have jobs at the corporation, we have jobs that are available, contract jobs, we have persons and contractors in the area who we are trying to do projects and to encourage them. What I try to do now is every project that there is that's going on in the area, we try to have a local content. About a year ago, an entire road collapsed in Africa due to water erosion. And that was a learning experience, because when we went to the source of the problem, there were eroded water pipes that were there for about 75 years ago. So what it did, it started at the top, up at the big tanks, the Morris Marshall, 2 big tanks, and it eroded an entire community. The road collapsed. With the Minister of Public Utilities, we fixed that road. But what it showed is that there were a connection of pipes. It was almost like a labyrinth of pipes that were same age, 75 years, and that caused water shortages because the pipes were rusted and too old. So having fixed that, what we did also is the first time WASA left their equipment overnight, and there was a local content. People came out to work at 6 o'clock in the morning. People sold food, and that project was finished in 3 weeks. So it shows the willingness and the industriousness of the persons to work in that area, to work in the entire area of Port of Spain South. Crime is also an issue that is gripping, and crime has serious consequences. I want to give you an example. There was a project that about 2 months ago that entailed persons coming and training for 4 weeks and getting life skills and then acquiring a job after. I had 4 names from Clifton Towers, 4 names. The 4 young men were supposed to start the Monday. This Friday morning, 2 persons were killed without any reasons. All those 4 young men who were going to get a life-changing opportunity were afraid to come out the Monday to go and start the program. The program began the 22nd of August. And they missed that opportunity due to fear for their lives. That is the effect of crime. I know the Honorable Minister of National Security is working. I see that there's been a very copious allocation in the budget, but we need to get a grip on that. Just yesterday, there was a drive-by killing in Sea-Lots, and we really have to get a hold of that because persons do not feel safe. Sometimes it may be overblown, but it's a real problem. And then we have certain infrastructural problems. But I think with the various ministries, I'm trying to work to get those things going. So, for example, the East Port of Spain Development Company is part of the whole revitalization of Port of Spain. And that will take us not just from East Port of Spain, but to Woodbrook. And Woodbrook is in itself a very technical area to deal with because there are some that are for, there are some that are against. You would have seen that there was a protest about Adam Smith Square, but nothing was happening at Adam Smith Square. What was happening? There was a place where they house the equipment in order to have the roads paved. But we still will engage the residents because that is part of the democratic process, and persons have a right to voice their opinion, whether they agree or not. So those are things that are happening, but also in the areas of culture. The building of the new Desperado Span complex is going to be something that I think will be a starter. It will be something that will be, it will almost be like a project a pilot project that will turn and transform a panyard into something that will have family, that will have development, that will have culture, that will attract tourists, that will attract local tourism, and that will bring pride to our national instrument. And that is something that I look forward to. It has already started. The sod has been turned and work is going on as we speak there. So there's a lot happening, but there's still more to happen. And I think the most important ingredient in Port of Spain South is the human capital. The people of Port of Spain South, they have a certain resilience. I almost call it a je ne sais quoi. I went down to see lots by Miss Dotton. Miss Dotton house is the last house before you reach the sea. And on an evening, her son goes on a raft and goes out into the sea and just chills out on an evening. I was amazed. I met with Miss Dotton about this week after Parliament late, and we had some issues because how that area is, we need to lift it out, to have some infrastructural work, to have some work as it relates to the houses, to eradicate things such as outhouses and bring it into the modern era in terms of getting it up and running. And I think that with the focus of the government, with the revitalization of Port of Spain, the capital city which we're in now will see some development, and hopefully that will bring about a vibrant and alive capital city that will be the capital not only of Trinidad and Tobago, but of the Caribbean.
That brings us actually now to the fiscal package 2022-2023. So let's start with you, Mr. Monroe. You are known as a grassroots person, someone who's down with the people. What has been the response of your constituents to the budget?
Well, I must say there was some mixed reviews at first, but I always make myself available for conversations, especially with my people who are confused about any government measures or policies. And I must say the budget 2022-2023 fiscal package is the government's position at this point in time. And I want to say that most persons may hear certain things and they react instantly. Maybe at that time they never had anyone to have that conversation. And I must say I've been doing a pretty good job of having that conversations with my people, explaining to them a lot of things about the fiscal package. Because overall, in my humble opinion, the fiscal package 2022-2023 is a good fiscal package. What there is in it for the average person is what I believe they are not seeing, and we have the responsibility as representatives to explain that to our people. And I've been doing that, and I have been working around all those little issues with our people. And I am not a specialist in oil and gas, but one of my key points that I've been treating with persons is the issue of persons talking about the increase in the gas price. And I explain to them it is because of what is happening economically, not only locally, but on the global markets and whatnot. But I want my people of Trinidad and Tobago and my constituents to rest assured that once the prices externally goes down, it is the government's position to reduce the price at the pump as well. However, the capping of the subsidy at $1 billion, and the removal of that $1 billion, I continue to explain to a lot of persons that is not all loss. It's just the subsidy was removed, but that $1 billion is going to be shared across the board. And we're going to see two modular water treatment plants, one in the Tour area and one in the Vega de Europuch area, with the capacity of 10 million gallons going to be put in place there. And I want to say hats off to the Minister of Public Utilities and thanks to him. And I ask that all persons and his team that given the support in the background at WASA, and they really work with this Minister of Public Utilities and give him the support. He means well. He wants the best for Trinidad and Tobago. And if we want improved water situations, because we all face water problems in this country, we need to work with the Minister of Public Utilities at this time in order to improve our situation.
Mr. Scotland, now some of the statements that you have made regarding the budget, and as Mr. Monroe would have mentioned, oil and gas and that type of thing, drew some negative comments from citizens. What are your thoughts on that, and how do you feel about that?
Well, firstly, it reminded me that communication is not what you say, but what others receive. And my statements, not me, it created tremendous hurt in some segments, and that is not what was intended. So, firstly, I want to say that I am desperately sorry, because that hurt that was created, it came out, and that was never the intention. I don't want to get into the nitty to re-justify anything, but that was never the intention. But I'm reminded that communication is not what you say, it is what you receive and what is received. And for that, again, I am desperately sorry, because that is not what I am about, and that is not what we are about as a government. What I do wish to say, though, is that because I am on the ground with my people, there was an outpouring of support, because people in Port of Spain South, they understand what I'm about, because I'm there with them. That is why on Wednesday afternoon, they could have seen me on the ground, just to ensure that there was nothing to see there, nothing to worry about. That being said, and going forward, bearing in mind that I'm reminding myself that communication is not what you say, but what is received, this budget came at a very critical time, because people are hurting and the feelings are raw, and it's up at the top. So it doesn't behoove me, and it doesn't benefit to say that there are things there without us getting the communication out there and understanding, letting the people understand that we genuinely care and that there are genuine things in that budget that persons can benefit from. And I want to just say, I will just give two examples. The increase in the non-taxation of persons who earn $7,500 a month, who do not pay taxes now because of this measure in the budget, is something that persons now can benefit from. $500 more can assist in going to the grocery and coping with the rising prices that have people now uneasy and have people hurting, and they're saying pressure. So that is one aspect that I would want to say that is a positive aspect in the budget. And it can work particularly in households, in single earning households. It will go not a long way, but it will go a way in alleviating that sort of pressure that the country is feeling and the country is expressing. I want also to say that as it relates to the area of education, that there's now an emphasis not just on education, but on education and training. It means that there'll be opportunities for the young persons. Listen, I have seen the over the last 3 to 4 days, I've seen the creativity of our young persons with memes and TikTok. Our young persons in Trinidad and Tobago will now have an opportunity to train because of the amount of money that has been invested in education and training. I want us to grasp that opportunity, particularly now that businesses are being given an incentive to employ young people, and they get a benefit back from the government. But going back to that initial question that you asked me, because I want to repeat it, I am desperately, desperately sorry for any hurt that was caused, because it was not intended. That is just not what I am about.
Mr. Richards, adding to the conversation of the fiscal package 2022-2023, and you too, a man on the ground, how have your constituents reacted to it, and what are they saying about it?
It was a mixed reaction. There are those who felt it was coming, and there are those who felt it was not a justified increase. But allow me to say this. When I was 21 years old, I lost my dad. And he was the sole breadwinner poor family. My mom was a housewife, and there was 5 of us in total. And he was a counselor as well. He actually died in that position. And I remembered for money, I was told that you have to work. So I had an uncle, and he passed away now, but he used to build houses. And I asked him for the opportunity to earn some money. And while working with him, I remember this gentleman came up, an elderly gentleman, he came up to me and he said, "You're so young, why you cleaning tiles on this floor? Why you don't go to school and do something?" And he said, what are you doing with yourself? And I said to him, "Well, I'm a pilot. So I'm waiting for the opportunity for the national airline to call me and stuff like that." And his reaction was one of laughter. And that made me feel terrible as a young man. And so we could understand, as this government, we could understand what people are going through. We understand what stress, we understand what pain is, we understand that entire thing. And what I would say to my constituents is the fact that at times we take the good with the bad. And even though I know that the major thing in this budget is the gas increase and everything is increasing here and there, what I want us to focus on are the things that also increased. And as a representative, I would have had the opportunity to meet a lot of parents, some single parents. And I remember this one parent. She came to me, and her son, he wanted to be a doctor. Yeah, right, brilliant young man. He was on Reservoir Hill. And I will never forget that young man. He wanted to be a doctor. And I remember when I was that age, I had a dream as well. And I said, "Well, you're bright, you're young, you had the grades, you're accepted. So what's the problem? Use GATE." But he had already used GATE for 6th form UE. So he was ineligible to utilize GATE now to go to medical school. That was costing single parent mother $50,000 a term. She paid for one term, and she couldn't send him for the next term. And that young man cried. And today, you can see in this budget, even though it has stress on some sector, that young man can now apply for GATE to achieve his dream of being a doctor with a single parent. And that is something that we must not take for granted. So we would have taken away $1 billion or more from the fuel subsidy and capped it at $1 billion. But there are so much young people in this country who has the opportunity of a further education, has the opportunity to make themselves into whatever they want to make themselves into. And that is something we must not take for granted. So I'm actually putting blinkers, and I'm feeling a little bit emotional about it at this point in time, but I'm putting blinkers on it because see, education is extremely important. And I think the government's focus on education is going to give so many young people an opportunity to become what they want to be. And I think that is where our focus has to be. I mean, I too came from local government. I spent 12 years as a councillor. I became a councillor at 23 years old. And I moved from councillor, deputy mayor, I served as mayor in Fortin. And I'm always with people. I still want to run around and play a little basketball when I have the time to. And I still want to meet with the youths and try to run with them. I get a little bit older, so I really can't do it as I would like to. But you know what? I have never seen in my 12 years as a local government representative, and now I have never seen so much focus on local government. If you go into the expenditure, you would see that local government was given a big pie. And all the people who in Monroe and Fanny Village and Chatham and Fullerton, Miss Gay. Miss Gay, if you're listening, Miss Gay says that she's my mother, adopted mother. Miss Gay, if you're listening, there's an opportunity for you to also have that problem sorted because the government will put things in place for that. And there's something in this budget for everyone. Yes, gas price will have increased a little bit, but we have an opportunity to really make a mark on the young people in this country.
And as we end on that high note, that good note, I'd like to get your final thoughts. So let's begin with Mr. Monroe. Your final thoughts?
If a person disagree with the budget, that is their personal view, and I can't vex with them for that. Everybody has a right to have their views and their opinions. But I want to ask the citizenry humbly from me on my behalf, on behalf of Toco Sangre Grande, on behalf of this young man from that part of the region. Let us not take things out of context or jump to conclusion too fast. I know we are all on edge, and I explained the situation earlier on. As citizens, you expect certain things, maybe of your representative or your government, and it's not forthcoming as fast as you want to. Also, as representatives, we may be under some immense pressure because we may want things to happen for our people, and we want it to happen now, and the bridge need fixing now, and the lady need food for her children now, and everything we want it now, and it may not be coming as much as that. So we have a lot of fluctuating taking place there with emotions and whatnot, because we all of us that makes the government are humans as well, and we all have emotions, right? And I genuinely believe, meeting some of my colleagues, most of my colleagues, I have I should say not most, all of my colleagues I have very good interaction with. And I can tell that they mean well, because I am known as a groundsman, a man of the people, and I could tell they have genuine goodwill and feelings for their people and love for the people, right? And sometimes we take things and it go out of context. But I want to put on the record that sometimes statements may be made, and it may be made out of haste or in the moment, as we say. And I genuinely believe that those things are not really meant in the way that it is received, as MP Scotland would have said, is not the message that was sent out, but what is received. And I want to put on the record the government position. I firmly believe that the People's National Movement, this government, led by Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, means well by all the citizens, not some, all the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. And as I like to famously say, from Ikakas to Las Cuevas, from Matlock to Chagaramas, all the way from straight across to Tobago. I believe we mean well by all our citizens. And it is the position of this government and all its members. Let's put aside what was said before. Let's call it a day and patch up and hug up and love up one another. I believe the government and its members' position is to move our citizens in a position of better standard of living and in an upward direction. It's a position that we hold dear to our heart, to move you from a board house to a concrete house, from one floor to 2 floors. It is our position to move you from no education to having an education. It is our position from moving you from no skill to having a skill, from no job to having a job. It is always our aim in this government, and all my colleagues, when I speak with them on a daily basis, all I hear is, I need to get this for people, and I need to get this for this area. I think I know every constituency in this country. I think I could call 5 areas because of the colleagues of mine who have been educating me of what they need for this area and that area. And I think that is genuinely position. So I think as a country, let's live in love. Let's really come together and try to understand one another, not take things out of context. And I ask that, that we don't fall victim to persons who have personal agendas and is trying to create an infighting. And when I say infighting, I look at Trinidad and Tobago as one big family, and infighting between us. Let us stand together, bind together, and fight the good fight. Because if we do that, we would come out of these challenges, and we will all see ourselves in the near future once we bind together where we want to be. I think that is my closing statement.
Mr. Scotland, your closing statement.
Well, let me put it this way. even as we understand that there's a hurt in this country and there's a pressure that we're going under, I always harken back to Barack Obama, and he will always end his presentation with a message of hope. And I see hope in 2 4-letter words: hard work. I want to tell you something. At age 13, I could have been 13, 14, I could have been in Form 1, so maybe 12. I had to go and look for a job, not that I needed it, but just to keep myself occupied. And I remember it because in getting school supplies about 2 months ago, I had to buy in bulk. And I went to John Dickerson in Diego Martin, the factory road. And that was my first job, being a busboy in the factory. And I was about maybe 12, 13 years of age. And that's all I knew, because that's all my mother, that's all she taught me. Hard work. She would leave home 6, and I would see her 9 o'clock in the night from my grandmother. And I feel that if we put our shoulders to the wheel, firstly, as a government, we must provide the opportunities for everyone to be able to contribute. And particularly in Port of Spain South, I see it in Port of Spain South, that the first question people when I go to Scotland, I want a job. Those who aren't working. And sometimes they have a skill, sometimes they don't have a skill, but what they always have is the will. And I feel if we put our shoulders to the wheel, having come from 2 years of uncertainty and still going into a 2023 is still uncertain, but you genuinely have leadership of the government that is astute, that is thinking about the country. And I feel that if we put our shoulders to the wheel and continue with hard work, there's hope for Trinidad and Tobago as a small economy in this world. And I want to give that message of hope to Trinidad and Tobago, and I want to make sure that that message is undiluted. And as young people would say, I say less.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Scotland. Mr. Richards, your final thoughts.
I'd like to say, I am a product of the People's National Movement. And over the last 2 years, we have had some challenges in this country. And spent a lot of money on ensuring that each one of us were alive. When I look back on where I came from, young man in Point Fortin, running through these streets, and what we were able to achieve by just dreaming. What we were able to achieve, as MP Scotland said, hard work. What we were able to achieve by togetherness, as MP Monroe said. And I think once we bring those ingredients together, we bring hope together, we as a country can achieve the greatness that we all seek for Trinidad and Tobago. People are hurting. I think the main thing is that everybody wants a little bit more money, a little bit more disposable income. They wanna go out and experience things and buy things and purchase things, and people wanna live. And as the young people say, people wanna live. And I think under the People's National Movement and the government, we're gonna have that opportunity. We're gonna have that opportunity to express ourselves. But at this point in time, we just need to come together and work hard as a nation. Nobody left behind. And really work so that we can be able to experience what we want to experience. And we have this saying. My father always used to say this. We are not the children of a lesser God. And no person in Trinidad and Tobago under this government will be treated as a child of a lesser God. And I believe in the political leader and the prime minister of this country. And people might think things are harsh, things are bad, things are tough. But I assure you, as a people, we are more resilient than the tougher things that are thrown at us.
And thank you all for being here, MPs Monroe, Scotland, and Richards, for being a part of this week's episode of Delving Deeper. Join us again next week, same time, for another episode of Delving Deeper. I am Ria Rup Chansing, and on behalf of the entire team, have a good night.